I'm here with a student of mine, Mike Torres, who's been studying guitar at Sweet Music Academy for, I don't know, how long have you been a student?
Forever. About 4 years.
4 years, and I think a student of mine for about two, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Mike plays guitar, and we get into some discussions, and Mike is a veteran, so part of this program, what I wanted to do is sort of talk about your experience with music during that time period, the songs that resonated with you, and uh, and just kind of get put some context to that. But I wanted to first start like about asking because I don't know this about you, Mike. Your upbringing. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Salzburg, Austria. Uh, my dad was a lifer. I
Hmm.
spent 28 years. Uh, I was born in a military hospital, and from there we moved to Brooklyn. Uh, my mom and dad got divorced, and when she got divorced, we moved to France, which is where my mom's French. That's where she was born and raised. And my mom got remarried. We moved back to Brooklyn, and I lived in Brooklyn until 1970 when I joined the Air Force.
Hmm.
So that's basically it.
And now you found your way to New Jersey. How did you find your way to New Jersey?
That's a good one. Uh, my in-laws uh, were from Brooklyn, and they moved to a retirement community in Tom's River. And then my mom and my stepfather, they moved to the same retirement community in Tom's River. And because nobody else wanted to move and be around them in case anything happened, my wife decided that we ought to move down here so we could be close to them in case they ever needed anybody. So that's how I went to Brooklyn, New Jersey.
Interesting. All right, cool, man. So, see, I didn't know you grew up in a military family. Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I had five. Uh, my younger brother, he passed away. In that I really don't want to get into. Uh, I have three sisters, and I still have uh, one brother. He's an older brother, and he's my brother, my father figure, and probably my best friend.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Very interesting. So, of your siblings, did any of the others were they in the military as well?
No, I was the only sucker.
Sucker.
Not kidding. Uh, no, I was the only one that went in. My older brother had some medical issues. Although he wanted to go in, they wouldn't take him. And my sisters were off doing, sister things. So
Mm,
it's me.
interesting. So, what led to your decision to join?
Uh, well, my my stepfather was um, I really hate to get into this, but my stepfather was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Uh, I turned into at the age of 12. I turned into his punching bag. So it was safer for me to go in the service during Vietnam than it was for me to stay at home. So I took the safest route, believe it or not.
Mm,
And to this day, I don't regret what I did.
very interesting. Okay, yeah. Only tell me what you feel comfortable sharing. Is of course, you know. So okay, great. So not
So I,
great.
anybody else wants to hear that, that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand. So okay, so you decided to go to service. Not so much because this great sense of duty, perhaps, but you just felt it was a better choice for you personally.
Well, no, there was a sense of duty. Um, Although I was an American citizen, because my dad and my mom were both citizens, and I was born in a U.S. Military hospital. I always believed that in order for me to really truly feel uh, like an American citizen, that I had to pay some kind of dues to do that. And the way I did that was to, I always thought that being a member of the military was basically paying the highest price I could to have the right to say I'm an American. And I still feel that way to this day. That's why I went in.
Okay, so how old were you when you went in?
I was 17.
Had you managed that?
And that was kind of a struggle. I graduated high school at 17, and I don't know if you guys know, but uh, anybody under 18 has to get a parental permission to join, and it took me like 3 months to talk my mother into signing the papers because, like I said, it was right after Tet in Vietnam, and she didn't want me to go. And, I basically kept telling her, look, if you don't sign the papers, I'm going in, even if it means that I have to, uh, what's the word? I have to fake it, okay? I have to fraudulently uh, get the papers to go in. So, regardless, I was going in.
Crazy to think a 17-year-old, did you feel, wow, I mean, I can't even imagine. What was it like? I mean, being that young and being away from home. I mean, like, what was that experience like for you?
Well, I felt alone anyway.
Mm,
Felt like the odd man out for a long time, and I needed something to give me continuity in life. And I knew what my father had in the military. I knew what my stepfather had in the military, and I said, you know, when you get to be that close with people, it's like creating a new family. So being 17 had no relevance to me. Uh, I felt that I could handle being in that environment without, without any problems. It was for me. It was just the thing to do. I had to do it.
hmm. Wow. So you were in the Air Force. Did you get to choose what branch you wanted to go into?
Well, actually, yeah, yes, I did. I again something a lot of people may not know, but before you go into service, you have to take an aptitude test first of all, and that's the same aptitude test that Cassius Clay, who is now Muhammad Ali, kept failing, so he didn't have to go into service. And I took it and got a 98 on it. So at that point, uh, any branch of the military that was out there, I could have joined and they'd be more than happy to get me. But I decided that the Air Force gave me more avenues to uh, find and find a life for me as far as education, uh, travel. Uh, it was just a good fit for me. Uh,
Okay.
and what happened then is the Air Force had their own aptitude tests, and it was a combination of four tests. And I got 295s and 290s.
Okay.
So when I went in, I basically had a choice of what I wanted to do.
Okay. So, what did you wind up doing?
Well, initially, I was supposed to be a translator, and what that consisted of was to fly in the back of an OV-10, which is one of those little prop planes, pick up messages from the other side, translate them, and send them to combat control. But I guess there was some mix, some part of my past, and I was not able to get a top secret clearance. So I took the next best thing, which was fire control, because I'd always wanted to be a fireman, and I figured, here you go, I can become a fireman. Well, that was kind of a not the right name for what I wound up doing. Fire control meant to control all of the weapons on a fighter and uh, work on a system that fired and controlled all of the weapons on the airplane. Uh, and so I got trained on the F4 Phantom. I worked airborne and air to ground radar systems, and it was used for delivering uh, guns, missiles, bombs, uh, and we were basically the system I worked on was the primary reason that that airplane was built, and that's what I did.
Wow. Okay. And so, where are some of the places that you wound up going to? Some
Uh,
countries.
okay, I've been to. Well, I went to Texas for basic. I went to Denver to tech school. I went to Vegas as my first base.
Okay.
Uh, from there, I went to Okinawa, and from Okinawa, I went to Korea, uh, Vietnam, Thailand, back to Thailand, Taiwan, uh, the Philippines, uh, and Japan.
Quite a few places.
Yeah. Uh, well, I was in for 7 years. I wanted to go. I wanted to stay in for 20, but my attitude and one of my commanding officers didn't drive. So they, that was it was like oil and vinegar, and they essentially asked me to get out.
Hmm.
So yeah, more than glad because I don't want to. This is not what I signed up for. So I got out. Uh, I was in for 7 years, 2 months, and 5 days.
Wow. Specific. And then,
Yeah.
what did you do? What was your after the military? What was your career?
Okay. Well, when I first got out, And one of the reasons I liked my job was because um, they'd send me out to an airplane, and I would be out there by myself. So I loved it. Nobody to bother me.
Yeah.
Just me in the airplane. So when I got out, I went and tried to find a job where I could just go and do what I had to do and go home. Well, I started out working uh, working the docks, uh, loading oil trucks and stuff like that. And from there, I said, well, the Air Force gave me all this electronics training. So I went to work, and the first place I worked on electronic systems. It was a electronic trading system for the stock market,
Mhm.
and before they had really had computers or anything. Uh, and then from there, I went to a company, and I learned how to work on um, telephone systems, and I used to I was installing and troubleshooting telephone systems, and then from there I went to a company that built uh, electronic communication systems for computers and terminals, and that's where from there I went to work at a uh, one of the national laboratories out on Long Island, and they started. That was the first place where I was introduced to the internet. Uh, excuse me. When I was there, I was like one of the first people to actually know and give inputs and design some of the internet systems that are out there.
Hmm.
Uh, initially, it was all government internet. This is before the commercial.com systems came in, and
Right.
it was pretty interesting uh, because, like I said, I was working on stuff civilians. I call it civilians. People outside of my environment didn't even know about. Uh, free. This was pre AOL, a long time before that.
Yeah. I mean, could you foresee what the internet has become when you were doing these things?
Um, as it was growing, I saw the potential for it. Um, and then when the .com showed up, uh, I actually went to work for one of the internet service providers, and I worked my way up to a network engineer, which was really just a small jump for me. and I just kept going up the line. I learned all the different things on how to put networks together. Excuse me a second.
Oh, you're good.
And I got to the point where um, I was designing larger and larger networks. And the networks I was working on, I learned how to uh, install and program routers. Now, the routers I'm talking about are not those little boxes that people have at home.
Right.
Okay. Uh, these boxes were the smallest ones were they weighed about 75 to 100 pounds. And they were, they had the potential of putting thousands of people and connecting them to the internet. Um, I was actually interviewed by one of the electronic magazines regarding one of the communications systems that the internet used because I was the first one to put one together and get it operational. So that's how far back into the internet I go.
Yeah. Hey, that's impressive, man. Really
That
cool. Yeah. All right. So this is a music show, of course. So we're gonna bring it to music. But honestly, Mike, you're the first. So typically on this show, I interview famous musicians. Um, so you're the first. Not that you're not a musician, because we're working on that, right? But this is the first time I'm interviewing somebody who's not a musician of note. So
oh,
I
thank
yeah. And I should tell the listeners that Mike is actually a very funny guy and we get into some very good conversation. And that's why I wanted to invite him on. So I was very interested in discussing some of the songs that while during your service sort of resonated with you and perhaps some of the people you were around. So I was wondering if you could maybe bring up or discuss a song or a couple songs that really impacted you during that time.
okay. Well, I was a child of the '60s, so you know, I'm going to put my age out there. And at that time, one of my favorites singers was Janis Joplin, and to this day she still is. But when I was in the service, probably the most influential musician that hit me and still does was Neil Young. Um, and I started listening to him, back right after Woodstock when he was still with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and quite a few of the songs that CSNY played were written by Neil. I'm going to call him by first name because
Yeah, your
he's
buddy. Yeah.
seriously. Uh, and one of the songs that um, actually carried me through a good part of my time in the service um, was After the Gold Rush.
Mm.
And I, that's one of the songs I know, Jay, that I actually do like to play. Um, Now, I want everybody to know that I do play, and I play good. I play good noise. So
Yeah. That's not true.
it's, it's but that one I can actually make sound like really sound like the song. Uh, but I always liked uh, the songs that he played because to me, they meant something. And after the gold rush, that meant uh, quite a lot to me because I always saw it as the sequence of man at war in three different time periods. Uh, and every time I listen to it, that's what goes on in my head.
Hmm.
Uh,
Cool.
another uh, musician that I really liked, I still do, is Cat Stevens. Uh, he wrote songs that at times I thought he wrote for me uh,
Mm.
because
You,
that's
which what song in particular?
well, uh, one of my favorites, okay, uh, was Longer Boats, and every time I hear it nowadays, it reminds me of a very good friend of mine that just passed not too long ago. And it is strange because I tell people the story on how I met him. We worked in the same field, and the two of us were in this little town in Korea, and we were at a bar in the town, and my friend was at the DJ booth because that's how they used to do music back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they still do, but they had a little guy sitting behind a wall, and you'd go up and ask him whatever song you wanted to play, and he'd take out the record. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but
Oh,
they're
yeah.
these things with music implanted on them. And I walked up to him and I said, "Well, hi, how you doing?" I'm okay. And that's the song that he had requested from the DJ, and that was 52 years ago. And that moment that I met him still is crystal clear in my mind, and it's something that I carry in my heart every day. Um, most of the that I worked with in the service, uh, other than those that have passed on me, we've become uh, more more like brothers than friends and co-workers.
Amazing. Yeah, it's incredible how certain songs sort of connect to a certain individual. Did you want to mention his name?
Yeah, his name is Patrick Tom Whitmer. Um, and we did a lot of things together. Uh, he was part, well, we used to call ourselves the WCS Gorillas. And that that basically alluded to the equipment on the airplane that we used to throw around when we were working.
Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. So
and
I do have a list here of songs that Mike had suggested, or so I'm not going in completely blind on this, but one of the ones that interests me, and it's the first one on your list, is Sky Pilot by the Animals. And so the basis of the show is an evaluation of records and artists from 1964 through 1994. Right now we're in the year 1966. So we've talked about the Animals on this show quite a bit. We haven't gotten yet to Neil Young and Cat Stevens, but certainly will be. Well, Neil Young we did. Just did an Buffalo Springfield show. So
another one of my favorites.
yeah. So if you could talk about Sky Pilot and the Animals, if you would like.
Well, the animals always struck me as being um, deep into the war movement, uh, only because of the things that they talked about. And Sky Pilot essentially was taken, as far as I'm concerned. Again, like any music, it's up for interpretation. Um, and every time I hear it, I hear about my mind flowing free and uh, um, losing the bounds and the boundaries of Earth and flying over and see what everybody's doing.
Mm.
And my mind works in strange ways. It always has. And every time I hear that song, that just reminds me of when I was in the service and I was in the war. Um, the things that we used to use, and Sky Pilot came from years back. Uh, Things that we used to use to try and not be where we were. Uh,
Mm.
it's it's kind of a hard thing to explain. Um, but a lot of the songs that I liked were basically saying, okay, there's home. You're this close to it, but you're not. You're this close, but you're far away. And your goal is to go back there where you belong. And
Interesting.
So a lot of these songs are the avenues that I use to mentally go back, if you will.
Right, right. I mean, interestingly, the three songs we've mentioned so far, none of them are from American artists, right? I
Yeah,
think, yeah.
yeah,
But so let's see. Another one that's on this list, and you could jump in on any that you would like to talk about. But there's one here, Golden Earring, Radar Love, and it's you say that it was our shop standard. And Golden Earring's an interesting band because I think Radar Love's maybe the only song that most people would really know about.
yeah,
I think they were pretty much a one-hit kind of a band. But
yes.
yeah, talk about like what do you mean by it was our shop standard?
Well, don't laugh now, okay? Because it is kind of a funny thing. Um, I worked on, me and the guys, we worked on airborne uh, and air to ground radar systems, okay? So that's what we do. That's what we did. We were the radar guys. So anytime that song would come up, okay, or it was playing, the first thing we would do is say, "Hey, this they're singing about us. We're the radar guys." So radar love um, was our love for the radar, and that was our anthem. Okay, that's who we were. And
Wow.
I know it's strange, but
No,
yeah,
no. It makes a lot of sense now because I was trying to like say I was thinking to myself, what is it about that song? It's a great song. I like it a lot. But I was like I couldn't really put it together, but now it makes total sense. Cool.
yes, especially Marianne. Okay,
Yeah, you with the Marianne. It's a bit of an inside thing.
yeah.
My father's trying to jump in, who's was in the service as a reservist. So I know he's going to enjoy this conversation. So it's kind of a timely jump in, but he's actually at my door. No-
Well, come in.
You know what? Let me grab him. Hold on. This will be interesting. All right, this is my father, Fred. Hi,
Dude,
Mike.
how you
Mike
doing?
Mike's a serviceman from Vietnam, and we're doing a show on the songs from Vietnam that resonated with him.
Are
So,
you a musician?
Well, I tell you what, I like to brag. I'm pretty good at making noise.
Not the same kind of noise I make.
Yeah, no. I'm working at it. I'm a work in progress.
so we were just talking about songs from from his time
Yeah,
in the
it's,
service.
it's,
Yeah. Is there a song that resonated with you from that time period, a favorite
well,
song?
it's just the people. Buffalo Springsteen, what song was that?
Buffalo Springfield.
What did he sing? That was
For what it's worth.
yeah,
There's something happening here.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, we just did a show
That was
just recently on that
that
one.
was a pretty impactful song.
I think one of the, if I remember correctly, and I might have heard this from you, Jay, that um, for what it's worth, the line itself is nowhere in the song.
You're exactly right. The line itself is nowhere in the song. Yeah.
I always found that strange.
And interestingly about that song, it wasn't on the original record. So he's a big Neil Young fan who's in Buffalo Springfield. So you touched on something. The song wasn't on the original LP and it was added later. And it was because of that song that they actually gained the notoriety that they did because they didn't have a hit.
Nice speaking with you.
Same here. Nice to meet you.
Be nice to him.
Oh no, that's not part.
Yeah, well,
That was cool. I like that part.
I did not plan. Definitely not planned. Uh,
Those are usually the best times. So
yeah, no, that's cool. All right, cool. So we got any other songs, Mike, that you wanted to bring up? What I'm going to do is I'm going to link all these songs to the podcast, maybe discuss some of them, and quite possibly, I'm going to be sharing this with my students in my music appreciation class. when we talk about the music of this era, and that way we can analyze them a little further. But what other songs would you like to mention?
Well, um, see now that's part of the problem. Everything goes flying out of my head. Again, I'm getting too old.
It's okay. I mean, I have your list here. We can go through a few of them pretty quick because some of them I was curious about. Well, one, of course, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, to me, that was again a lot of the songs that are on there that I like were a matter of um, escaping the boundaries that we lived in at the time. Stairway to Heaven, and I always remember the album cover. Where the guy on the cover is actually climbing up into the sky, and that always made me feel like, I don't have to walk around with my feet on the ground. I can always fly.
Wow.
I can always become a part of something else, not just where my feet are planted. And that's why I like that. That's one of the reasons I did like that song. I still do. Um, like I said, I mean, a lot of the songs, uh, and most of them are the ones I really like, were a matter of forgetting where I was and going to places that I would rather be at the time.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, just let me just bring up two more, because I find it interesting, and I think I might even know the answer to this now that you've explained yourself about some of these things. But let's talk Freebird.
Again, it's a matter of looking at who am I? What am I doing here? What am I? What are my close association with the people around me? Are they like me? Are they free to open their minds and go to another plane? Uh, that's what that song. It starts out slow and it picks up tempo, and it just goes. Uh, it just travels and takes you away. I guess a good way to put it. Uh,
Right. And I thought perhaps maybe because a lot of these have to do sort of like with flying, and I thought maybe the bird imagery too might have something to do with it, but maybe not so
oh
much.
yeah, I mean, how are you gonna how are you gonna escape the boundaries of Earth without flying? I mean, that's the avenue you've got, unless you're riding around on a rocket ship or something. You know,
Yeah.
I I, I hate to be sarcastic here, but
Be,
uh,
be yourself, man. Be yourself. That's why you're here. All right, last one I want to ask about here for now is Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. You actually have two Deep Purple songs on here. Uh,
yeah.
My Woman from Tokyo, maybe I shouldn't ask you about that one. I don't know, but Smoke on the Water.
Well, if my kids are listening, they may not want to hear what I got to say, but um, we we smoked a lot of weed when we were over there, and there were times where in our bungalows and in the barracks, it was smokier in there, and than in front of a fire pit. It smoked so much, and that's why I always thought, there's smoke on the water. There it is, a nice, calm place, and we're spreading smoke all over it. That's what I made. That always made me kind of made me feel funny. Uh,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
take me to a place that maybe I should be in and enjoy myself a little bit differently.
Right, right. So it seems like a lot of these are about escapism, which would make total sense given what you were dealing with. And
Yeah.
then I can't resist this one because it's just such an American type of a song. We're an American band.
Yes. Okay. And to me, like you said before, a lot of the songs that were on there were not American songs. Okay. They were written like Canadians, English, but when you're an American, we're an American band, you sit there and there's a moment of pride that says, we are, this is our contribution to the status of who we are at this point in time. And that's something nobody can take away from us. I guess a good way to put it. Um,
Cool.
I did want to mention one thing,
Sure.
which was not on the list. Uh, One of my favorite bands was um, not a name of it escapes me, but the Moody Blues.
Sure.
I I don't think there is one song by the Moody Blues that I don't like. Um, their music was, to me, a little bit ahead of their time. Um, and I'm not a musician, so I may be interpreting this incorrectly, but they would put things together, and the music was such that anybody could sit there and enjoy it because it wasn't hard rock. Uh, it was more metal rock than anything. It was hallucinogenic, which was a sign of the times. Uh, And I mean, anybody, in my opinion, anybody can enjoy their music
Yeah,
because it was unique in itself.
I agree. I mean, let me give you my quick impression on the Moody Blues since you brought them up. Underrated, totally underrated band, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a tragedy. And like you said, they were something different. There's like a level of sophistication in their music, that blending of classical music with rock, early progressive rock, if you want to call it that. And but with even with that level of sophistication, it's totally accessible. Like you said, anyone can listen to it and really kind of appreciate it. I mean, most people would know, I guess, Nights in White Satin, Tuesday Afternoon, but so many great songs, and I don't think they get their due.
Yeah, I like Timothy Leary's Dead. I love that song.
That's cool. So the one thing, it was funny because, not funny, but one thing I had mentioned to you is I looked at your list and I said, interestingly, there's not one protest song specifically on your list that I would recognize as a protest song, perhaps. And I think you explained the reason why to me very clearly in your response, but maybe you can explain to the listeners why, a lot of the songs that civilians associated with the war. Although my father did mention a pretty political song, uh, why are none of those songs on that list, perhaps?
Well, when when you're out when you're out there, okay, okay, let me start over. To me, I've always said there are two kind of people in the world. There are civilians and there are veterans. Now, some people would say, I don't understand what you're saying, okay? But in my mind, they are two separate people. Um, and the way I differentiate them is that a civilian um, walks around and he knows what the media is telling him, and that's all he knows. Okay, he's closed-minded to that. A veteran, he knows the exact same thing. Okay, he knows what the civilians are allowed to know. But the other thing that makes them different than the civilian is that not only do they know it, okay, but they know whatever else is behind it. Okay, they understand it more than if somebody. It's like reading a comic book as opposed to reading a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a comic book is going to give you this. A novel is going to give you that plus a whole lot more. And to me, that's the difference between being a civilian and being a veteran. Because the civilian knows what the media tells them, the veteran knows what the media is telling them, and also the truth that they've been there.
Very interesting. Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I don't want to make this an overly political thing, but there seems to be this new trend um, amongst politicians who were service members, sort of discounting or discrediting someone else's service. Um, and this show is international. I get a lot of listeners from all around the world. Could you talk about your thoughts on that?
Well, and that's kind of a sore spot in me, because I don't like to be discounted, which is exactly what they're doing. Okay, it's saying my servicemen absolutely nothing to them. Where in fact, if it wasn't for my service, they wouldn't be able to sit there and be a free man. And they don't seem to understand that, because there's a too high a level of arrogance in them. Uh, you know, um, I'm not going to listen to what anybody says because, hey, what do you know? Well, the thing is, I do know. You don't know. I've been there. Uh, I've done the sweat. I've done the blood. I didn't sit at home on my butt complaining about everything. I did something about it.
Right.
And I think that philosophy is sorely lacking in our um, world today, especially in our country, because we're supposed to be the leaders of the world, and right now we're acting like a bunch of idiots walking around. Uh, we don't care about what anybody else says, does. Um, they don't. Uh, they don't give credit where credit is due. I didn't go in service for the hurrahs or anything else. I went into service because I felt that deep down inside I had a responsibility to be there. And what I do it for? I did it for my kids, because I wanted them to be able to stand up and say, I'm an American, and that's it. You can never take that away from me. Okay? That's how things are to me. Okay? I've earned X. You can never have my X. Okay? And if I was stupid enough to give it to you, then that's my bad. Okay? Because you should not be getting something you didn't earn or you worked for, or put your life on the line for. That's not the way. To me, that's not the way life is. And unfortunately, I call this, you have the X generation and whatever. I call this the E generation. And I call it the E generation because everybody that's walking around, okay, let me take that back. A lot of the people that are walking around believe that they're entitled to whatever and they don't have to work for it. They're just entitled to it. So I call them the E generation. And we've got too many of those people walking around. And somebody should stop it. Somebody should tell them. Somebody should open their eyes because there's too many people out there that you need to help. Uh, there's too many people out there that you need to give a hand to stand on their feet. And I try to be that way. And I don't think enough people do.
Right, right. Yeah,
It's
no.
philosophy for the week.
No, that's very interesting, and it's good to get your perspective. Um, as someone who was not in the military, um, it is disconcerting when I hear people who were supposedly supposed to be brothers in that way, and sort of discrediting or saying someone's service is more than or less than. And then in particular, and I guess I am getting a little political here, when somebody who skirted their service perhaps or wasn't in the service really comments on certain things about service members. I find it very disheartening.
Me too. And I was one.
Right. All right, Mike, I think we did the thing, man. What else do you want people to know? I want to make sure you get everything in there that you wanted to say. What more would you like people to know, or what more do you want to say?
Well, the only thing I would like to say is that I don't appreciate people that are jumping on a bandwagon and try to make people think that, they're 100% behind you. And in reality, all they're doing is making people believe that that they're patriotic. Okay. Uh, when I have people come up and say, "Thank you for your service," when all they're trying to do is show everybody else that okay, I gotta say this guy. If you don't mean it, don't say it. Okay, I'm not gonna hold that against you
Hmm.
because I gave 7 years of my life for the right to you for you to do that. That's about the same. That's one of your freedoms,
Yeah.
and you know.
Well, let me ask you this because I am somebody who truly is thankful. What would be the appropriate, but I'm also thankful for you as a person. What would be the appropriate thing to say, or is it best just not to say a phrase like "Thank you for your service"?
Um, to walk up and shake somebody's hand and say thank you and walk away. Okay? Just to walk up and say thank you for your service. You're a parent. You're just repeating what's supposed to be the right thing to say. If you really appreciate it, walk up to the person, male, female, I don't care. Walk up to him, take him by the hand, shake his hand or her hand and say thank you and walk away. Okay. Don't do it like, don't make a presentation of it. Uh, don't stand there and sit loud enough for everybody to hear. Okay. Yeah, I do understand what I'm saying, Jay.
No, I understand. I mean, so with that being said, I'm going to shake your hand, and I want to thank you for being on the show for sure.
I want to thank you for giving me the honor to be here.
Oh well, it's my pleasure, man. And I think we got into some good things, and it's really interesting the songs that you chose, and also the songs that you didn't choose, because I think a lot of us associate certain songs and certain phrases with with what it meant to be somewhere that we have no idea what it was like to be. And I think you brought up some really good points.
Well, I thought I tried to. I just tried to be myself and let people understand who I am.
Right. All right. With that being said, Mike, I'll see you in our lesson. All right.
All right. Thanks again, Jay.
All
Thank
right.
you all, everybody out there, for listening to me.
Yes, and get that F chord down, will you?
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a great day.
All right. You too, guys. Bye.